Hey guys, Zomfox here, and today we're going to be doing the fourth USFL 2023 College Draft Review. And the team we're doing today is the team that lost in the USFL first championship game in the Philadelphia Stars. The Stars were a very, very solid team last year, but for the most part, they were mainly carried by just a few guys who are insanely good. So naturally, it's time to see how their draft was. So, without further ado, their first pick was sixth overall. They picked Alfred Edwards. He was a first team All Mountain West in 2022 after starting 11 games at left tackle, and he allowed just one sack in the entire season at 864 snaps. That's overall insanely good. I've always talked about how great guys in the trenches are, and you'll notice that this Stars draft is a pretty good. So, I really like this pick naturally. And their second pick they had was also an offensive lineman. This time in Anderson Hardy from App State. He made 29 career starts at App State, including 28 in a row to end his career. He was a first-team All-Sun Belt in 2022 and had the third best overall blocking grade and fourth best run blocking grade among starting offensive tackles in the Sun Belt, according to PFF. He was also a second-team All-Sun Belt selection in 2021. A very, very solid overall player, a group of five team, but still really great player in that group and still an FBS school. Overall, very solid. Definitely another solid offensive line pick. Then we have Isaac Moore from Temple, another offensive lineman. He was a starter at Temple for 5 years. He played a high school record 57 consecutive games. He was a fourth-team All-AAC selection by Phil Steele in 2022 and started all 12 games at left tackle in 2021. Again, a solid offensive lineman, not, the most notable of names, probably a guy that's more likely to go to the USFL than, some other offensive linemen picked, but still a very solid pick. And then with their fourth round pick, this is going to shock you, they did not pick an offensive lineman. They did pick another guy in the trenches, though, in Harvard grad Tremaine Jones, defensive end. He was a unanimous first team All Ivy League in 22 and an FCS AP third team All American, was tied for first in the Ivy League in TFL with 13 and recorded 7 games with at least 4 tackles. I think this is a very solid pick, and actually getting a guy from an Ivy League type of place, and since he wasn't, even a first team in the FCS or second team, there's a legit shot he comes to the USFL in a couple of years, and he's bringing some real high IQ. So I think this is a very solid pick. Getting another guy for your trenches, also always a great pick. And, you can pair him with Rodriguez, and that should be a really good duo. Then you have Earl Bostic Jr., the offensive tackle from Kansas. Bostic was an all Big 12 honorable mention in 22, starting 23 games in 21 and 22 combined. In 21, he also caught a 2-point conversion pass for the Jayhawks in the final home game of the season against West Virginia. So again, another offensive lineman that's always a very solid pick to do, and that's their fourth one. Then we have their sixth consecutive trenches pick from Eastern Michigan and Jose Ramirez, who in Eastern Michigan appeared in each of their 13 games in 22, recording 66 tackles, 19.5 TFLs, and 12 sacks. He had 7 tackles and a TFL in EMU's upset victory of Arizona State on September 17th. Again, this is another very solid pick. You're getting another guy to man the trenches. The sixth round, it's just a very solid pick again. And overall, this really does show that the team really knows what they're doing. Bart Andrus and his GM have really done a great job, especially this draft is really one of the best ones you'll see, and this because of picks like this. You're getting guys in the trenches that are very solid players to have. You can't really go wrong with getting guys from the trenches, especially like how good these guys are. Then in the 7th round, you had DeMontre Jacobs from South Florida, another offensive tackle. He played in all 12 of USF's games in 21. His second season with the Bulls after transferring from Grambling, he helped USF to a school record single-game rushing record of 421 yards in a game. Another great pick. Getting another guy to help your team in the trenches. It's always solid to get those kind of guys, and they've done a great job in getting those best types of players. Really do like it. It's definitely a great thing. Always great to have. And then in the 8th round, they picked Trey Botts from Colorado State Pueblo. He's a defensive lineman. He recorded 66 total tackles and 16 TFLs and 5.5 sacks while appearing in 12 games for the D2 Colorado State Pueblo. He was named an NCAA Division II All-America Honorable Mention in 22 after being named All-Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference Honorable Mention in 2020-2021. Again, they're getting someone from a very lower-end school, which usually I'm not the biggest fan of, but in this case, I think it's overall decent because I think that there's a legit shot that you're going to get him to go to the team this year, and you're adding him to a bunch of other guys that are still on the team. As I mentioned, you still got Adam Rodriguez, who was one of the best linemen in the entire league last year. So you still have that, and overall, this is definitely going to be a very solid addition if he does come to the team. So yeah. And then we have the last two picks, which were not Trench's picks, in Destin Mack from Citadel, cornerback. He recorded 182 tackles and 9 interceptions across 5 seasons at the Citadel, playing in at least 10 games each year. He was named second-team All-Southern Conference in 2021. Getting a cornerback, always a good thing to have, to try and help that back end. Yes, you do still have Shanning's dribbling, but having someone else that can be a legit huge threat is always going to be a great thing. So I do honestly really like this pick naturally. I think that this is a great one to try and help bolster your part of your team that would really need a secondary type of help, as yes, dribbling was incredible, but they didn't have overall the most insane of an overall team, if you know what I mean. So I really do like this pick. And the last pick of the draft for them was the 78th overall pick, linebacker Dre Terry from Alabama A&M. He recorded 85 tackles and 12 TFLs in 22 for Alabama A&M, and he played in 11 games. He used to play at ECU. Again, this is another solid pick. Their last two picks are guys that have a legit shot of playing this year or next year, so they can come to the team and help very quick. And those are always very, very good things to have, especially when you consider the fact that they're getting those two guys for groups that weren't the best, especially linebackers. They didn't have any unbelievable linebackers. They had a great defensive lineman in Adam Rodriguez, and they had an awesome defensive back in Channing Stribling, but they didn't have any sort of linebacker that was truly insane. They didn't have a linebacker you would say was a top 5 or arguably even top 10 in the league. So I think this is a very solid pick to get him. Now, in terms of the draft overall, I think that it is probably very obvious to see where I'm going to put it at. I think when you consider the fact that the team drafted, literally half their draft were offensive linemen, and almost all the rest, having their last two, were defensive linemen, and the fact that 2 that weren't Trench's picks were very solid picks for the idea of getting them to help the team as soon as possible. Getting off these offensive linemen is great because even though Case Cookus looked awesome, it's very clear that he didn't have the best offensive line to protect him. That if you had, let's say, put him on the Generals' offensive line, there's a legit shot that all of his stats would have been even better than they were before. So I think that overall, when you look at the Stars draft, I think this is the gold standard for what a college draft like this is, where you're drafting players' rights. You need a position, you go for it. You get 5 offensive line selections with the idea that as long as 1 or 2 of those guys come, you're getting legitimately great linemen. And you're doing the same on the other side of the ball, and then when you're not using those picks, you're getting guys more likely to come to the league that you can help out soon. I overall think this is the best draft in the entire USFL this season. I'm going to give this an easy A+. I really can't see anything totally wrong with it, because the FCS and the non-top school picks of the last 2 guys are still guys that are going to help you out very soon in positions of need. Their offensive line drafting, half their drafting it, unbelievable job. By far, the best draft, A+. So that'll do it for the Stars. We still have 4 more to do. I don't know which team I'm going to tackle next, but we still have 4 others to do. So as always, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you'll be notified as soon as those come, since they should be coming in